Okay, so continuation of this, we're going to end up creating a situation where we are shooting bullets, graphics, as opposed to just the yellow rectangles, and we're going to go ahead and explode enemies upon death. So here's a kind of quick sneak preview of what we're doing here. So you can see the bullets are different, and then that explosion. Now that explosion, if you looked at it, it went through its process and then it disappeared. As a matter of fact, the Heliboy now is about 100 pixels off to the left here. So as we continue, you're going to see this next set of enemies here. This one right here, you're going to see a different behavior. And this one's going to be shot and explode and keep exploding in place. So we go ahead and do that. And then you'll see it just keeps exploding. It doesn't move, it stays in that particular space. So we're going to go ahead and set up our project to do that. And the only reason why I left that second one is so that you kind of hopefully get a better appreciation of some of the things that you can do while programming. So you can see I have the enemy class open. Also, what I did to get that explosion, just in case you're looking for it, MrBuka.net, I went to the Android page, and if you scroll down into other resources, here's the explosion tile set. That'll get you a zip file. You can download that, extract it, unzip it, and place it into your assets folder in your workspace there. So it comes with, I believe, 15 pictures. And so then we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up a couple things. A couple changes we're going to do is we're going to add this private boolean, remove equals false. So this is we're going to use to see, should we remove the picture, the enemy, from the screen, or should we leave them there? You notice that my health is 5. That was kind of the default. You could change that to 1. You could change that to 10 if you wanted to. All depends on how many hits you want your Heliboy to take. And then private boolean alive equals true. And that's going to be able to keep track of whether or not this particular enemy is alive or not. So scrolling down, a couple changes that I've made. I'm going to go through it very quickly, so you're probably going to have to pause the video if you really want to get the code. Otherwise, so I edited update. The reason why I did was because I wanted to say, okay, well, if I'm alive, then yeah, I should follow, attack the player. Else, I shouldn't. I should just be standing in place because I'm dead now. And beyond that, if we move on down, I also created a couple methods here. One is getAlive, where I return this .alive. Notice how it's a public boolean, so the return type's a boolean. So this is to say, hey, are you alive or not? And then getRemove, so return remove, the boolean that we created up top. Again, that's to see, should I remove you or should I keep you on the screen? And then adversely, I have the set methods. So the set remove, so I'll take in some information and that'll change the value of the remove boolean. And then set alive, which again does the same thing. Okay, so that's the changes that I've made there. Now the changes that I've made in the assets class shouldn't be anything really profoundly different than any other animation. As a matter of fact, exploding is just another animation. It's no different than anything else, especially when you think about particular conditions setting and animation. So I've added all these variables. You could do the same. In loading screen, you could see that I also assigned the variables in the assets class, the particular image that goes with them. And then in the game screen class, you'll notice that I did something very similar to any other animation. I went ahead, I created these variables, and if we move on down into the code, you could see that I assigned them the variables that were in the assets class. And I created an animation. It's called XAnim right here. And then I, of course, constructed and assigned all of those XAnims. So construct a new animation, XAnim, and then I went ahead and I filled in the blanks for those. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go down to the logic part, which is actually the tricky part, which we haven't done exactly just yet. So I'm going this time into the paint method. So if we scroll on down to the paint method, you will see a couple changes that we made. Now, you can still see the rectangles, and I could, if I were sick of seeing the rectangles, I could just comment those out or get rid of them. I'm going to leave them there for right now. And I'm going to take a look at this logic down here. So, for HB and HB2, you're going to see that they pretty much mirror each other. So, I said, hey, if the health is less than 0, then set alive should be false. So that's my way of saying, if my health goes down 0, you're dead. Notice how I mimic the same thing for HB2. The only difference is instead of HB, it reads HB2. And then we get a little bit more complicated right here. If HB.getAlive equals true, go ahead and show HAnim. So that's your regular propeller flying around animation. And then same thing for HB2. Now, if we scroll down, it gets even more complicated. Now we have a nested if. You notice that I commented my ifs here because I kind of wanted to highlight this nesting here. So I've got the first if open and close. You can see the rectangle around here denoting that this brace corresponds to this brace. And then I say, okay, if this particular heliboy is not alive, so alive is false, then I check, okay, well, should I remove you? If it's true, then I go ahead and I set him 100 on the screen, negative 100 on the left of the screen, don't see him anymore, out of the way. Moving on, if the XAnim, so if I shouldn't remove him just yet, well then if XAnim, the current frame is less than 13, and keep in mind this actually means 14, so I'm only doing 14 of the 15 frames, and HB get removed is false, so if my current frame is less than the run through for it, and get removed as false, well, then go ahead and show that XAnim picture, right? And then, of course, I come down here. Well, if XAnim's current frame is greater than 12, which again could be 13, then set remove equals true. What that'll allow this to do is it'll run through here, it'll do the animation, it'll say, okay, set remove should equals true. I come back up. Well, get alive is still false because it's dead. But now remove is true, so it'll move this over to negative 100, and therefore I won't see the constant exploding animation. It just removes them from the screen. And that closes out that animation. Now, if you noticed in my video, HB2 did not do the same thing. It just kept on exploding and exploding and exploding. Well, look at the difference. I haven't even done any of that other work that I did for HB up there. So all it does is say, hey, if you're dead, then explode. And that's why it does what it does. Of course, if I wanted HB2 to follow in suit as HB1, I could just copy and paste this, and then change everything to HB2 as well, and then I would have a one-time exploding HB2 who also moves off the screen. So that's pretty much the logic behind that. One thing that I said I would do, I would also change the bullet. So if we go ahead and we look at the bullet, there's a couple things that we've done slightly differently here. If we look still in the paint method, what I did was I commented out the draw rect. So I don't want to draw the yellow rectangle, it's kind of lame. I want to give it an actual image. Now, I kind of got lazy, I didn't actually go out and make a bullet or anything like that. I just used that first little fireball that was in the explosion. So what I did was I said, okay, well, let's draw assets, bullets, the X and the Y position. Now I did that based off of the image that I had, so you have to kind of understand this, how it draws the image and what the image size is. You can go ahead and kind of take a look at the assets bullet, but what you also have to do is you have to change the assets bullet. So you have assets bullet, then let's follow that to the loading screen, and then if we look in the loading screen, I'm going to find it right here, ex1.png. So I changed that to the ex1.png, and now it ends up showing that little fireball instead. So that's all the logic that I really had to change for this. You should be able to make the updates in your code and it should work just fine for you.